Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to talk about the latest non-fiction book I've read. Cornell West's Democracy Matters, Winning the Fight Against Imperialism. Now, I think it says something about this author that he presents himself on the cover, full on, that's the cover, his image, and the first thing on this page is his name. I'm not sure what it says, but it is a bold statement. It comes forth and says, here I am, this is who I am. And I think that in many ways is the message he's carrying through this book. Now, he's really talking about the fact that America is an empire, has been an empire from the get-go, that our imperial drives were coded into the DNA at the very foundation of our nation, that the whole manifest destiny that was going to push us westward and just annihilate the Native Americans was something that was kind of a foregone conclusion, that if we hadn't had that escape valve of Western movement, that our nation couldn't have been founded. He has a previous book which I haven't read. This book is kind of a sequel to that. I didn't realize it when I picked it up. I picked it up at a yard sale or something like that. And it's called Race Matters, and he deals with the fact that we as a nation really have not dealt in a functional and healthy way with our deep-rooted white supremacy in this nation. Yes, I know that people are going to tell me that racism is a thing of the past, and that that white people are being oppressed, and I'm going to call bull on both of those things. And if you were to read just this book, it'll be a wonderful example of why that is not true. But one of the things I liked about this book from the get-go is he has a very challenging writing style. His use of language is of a high order, and he very much doesn't water things down for the mass American audience. You either come along and you figure out what he's writing and you raise yourself to his writing level with your reading level, or you're going to lose out. And I appreciate that in many ways. Yes, it does show a certain level of arrogance, but it's still, I think it's fascinating. However, the book is not perfect. He makes a statement that the Jews invented prophetic religious experience, which I found to be bizarre. Because while I have a great deal of respect for the Jewish people and the religions that have been founded upon them, I don't think you can say they invented prophetic religious experience. I'm pretty sure that prophetic religious experience has been around for longer than even written language. So I was really confused about why he believed this, and he doesn't explain why he believes it, so I'm still confused why he believes this. But he does use it as a number of examples, and I'm going to get to some of that in a moment. He also is a social conservative in some ways. He's a Christian of a deep, on a deep level from the Southern Baptist tradition for the most part, right out of the whole school of thinking that created Martin Luther King. And this bleeds over into the fact that he has a rather sex-negative view. He comes out from the get-go, boom, with the concept that pornography and strip clubs are a moral negative, that he feels that they're eating away at the moral foundations of America. And frankly, pornography and strip clubs to me are just a thing. And I've never even been to a strip club. I don't think they are any better or worse than being fans of sports. You can be a fan of a sport and it's just part of your life, or you can obsess about it and it will be a detrimental effect on your life. And the same can be held true for pornography or strip clubs. So his socially conservative beliefs from his religious experiences, I think, are affecting his worldview, and he's not being as open-minded as he needs to be on these topics. He also has a little bit of the grumpy old man thing going on here, and he's not that much older than me. I mean, he's older than me, but he's not that much older than me. For example, he looks in a negative light at the internet what you are viewing me on, and says, how it's distracting young people from being engaged in the democratic process. And yet, literally 2 pages later, he discusses the protests that happened in 2003 with the invasion of Iraq, and talks about the fact that, these events were so positive, and they were, it was happened all over the world, and how important this was. The young people came out and said something, but none of that would have happened without the internet. So he's saying, yes, it's bad, but then he's saying, well, but these things over here are good, and they're directly linked. And I don't think he understands that. But he does something in this book which I had never found a better example of. In the past, I have said many times that I feel that organized religion is a detriment to humanity, and I still believe that. But I've never been able to articulate it quite as well as he did, because he has put forth 2 different schools of thought in Christianity. The first school of thought is a prophetic tradition of Christianity, and this is the school of thought of living your life like Jesus lived, of presenting the world with all people are my brothers, social justice, equality, taking care of the poor and the downtrodden, living the life of Jesus. And the other school of thought is that he is presenting is what he is calling Constantinian Christianity. And that's based on the Emperor Constantine, who was the first Roman emperor to convert to Christianity in 312, I think. And in 313, he decriminalized Christianity, so now everyone could practice it at their will. And about 100 years later, one of the last Roman emperors in the West made it the official religion of the Roman Empire. And by doing these things, they co-opted Christianity and built it into the authoritarian structure that was Rome. And out of that grew the Catholic Roman Church, and of course all the other really institutionalized Constantinian style or versions of Christianity. And these are the versions of Christianity that have taken Jesus' message of love and used it as a blunt weapon, justifying war, genocide, persecution, bigotry, hatred, misogyny, slavery, all the negative things that you could think of about organized religion. It's the Constantinian school of authoritarian religion really does this. Now, I'm going to read a passage here. I apologize, it's not a particularly short passage, but it really hit me in a profound way. Okay. To be Christian, a follower of Jesus Christ, is to love wisdom, love justice, and love freedom. This is the radical love in Christian freedom and the radical freedom in Christian love that embraces Socratic questioning, prophetic witness, and tragic-comic hope. If the Christians do not exemplify this love and freedom, then we side with the nihilists of the Roman Empire, cowardly elite Romans, and subjugated Jews, who put Jesus to a humiliating death. Instead of receiving his love and freedom as a life-enhancing gift of grace, we end up believing in the idols of the empire that nailed him to the cross. I do not want to number among those who sold their souls for a mess of pottage, who surrendered their democratic Christian identity for a comfortable place at the table of the American empire, while, like Lazarus, the least of these cried out, and I was too intoxicated with the worldly power and might to hear, beckon, and heed their cries. To be a Christian is to live dangerously, honestly, freely, to step in the name of love as if you may land on nothing, and yet you keep stepping because that the something that sustains you no empire can give you and no empire can take away. This is the kind of vision and courage required to enable the renewal of prophetic, democratic Christian identity in the age of the American empire. Now, it's a big passage. It says a lot. But here's the thing. If all Christians believed this, if they worshipped their God in this way, I would embrace them as brothers. We would be warriors together for social justice. And I would be happy as a clam. But that's not most of the Christians I encounter. In fact, in real life, I'm not sure I've ever met one of these. I have met far more of the Constantinian school of thought, which is depressing, because it's about maintaining the empirical powers of the world and using the love of Jesus Christ to justify hate. So this is a powerful book that deals with democracy. But for me, it presented a worldview that I had not been able to articulate as well as Mr. West has. And I plan on reading others of his books, because he really is a brilliant writer, and I thoroughly enjoyed what he said. But it's not an easy read. It's going to challenge you. It's going to piss you off. I'm not going to agree with everything the man says. But I'm glad I found this. I'm glad I read it. And I recommend that anyone who has a love of democracy and a desire to fight the imperial way of thinking in the world, that you should read this.